John, thank you. Thank you to the Air Resources Board. I've lived in California a long time, and you all have done a fabulous job in cleaning up the air, and I just want to say thanks. And thanks for holding this meeting. I was once introduced at a meeting we invited him to cause trouble. I'll try to live up to that. I do think that causing trouble is a good thing, because without that we make conclusions that are too simple and not warranted. So I'd like to comment really on 7 items. Where we are in terms of the toxicology understanding of air pollution is where chemistry was before the periodic table, and that's pretty bad. We're using, for example, mass as an indicator of hazard, and it would make as much sense to use mass as an indicator of hazard in the air as it would to evaporate water samples and weigh the residue and use that as an indicator of hazard for the water samples. There have been probably 30 other properties other than mass proposed as to what's driving the health effects. High on the list are metals such as vanadium. So it might be wise to establish whether or not that's what's driving health effects or some other properties, and then control that, because it'll upset the economy a lot less. The second comment that I have, we're stuck with an antiquated system. The U.S. EPA is a phenomenal organization, really a lot of talented people, but they're stuck with having to use indicators such as mass that are not chemically specific, and also to set national standards that have to apply to absolutely everywhere in the United States. And that's a real problem, especially for us in California, where a lot of PM2.5 is related to our dry climate and dust. Now, we can't control the dust, so if we have to meet an EPA standard for PM2.5, we have to go after things like diesel trucks, because we can't control the natural dust. And that does significant economic harm, I believe. And if you really want to hurt people's health, you could put them below the poverty level. That's one of the highest risk categories you can be in the United States. The next comment is that I'm concerned about the philosophy that we need to go ever lower in terms of our standards, or ever more stringent in terms of our standards. I think the microbiologists have taught us that if we sterilize everything in our environment, we'll lose our ability to handle microbes in the environment. And in fact, another way, if I wanted to harm all of your respiratory health, that I would consider would be putting you in a clean room for about 2 weeks, because your respiratory tract is not going to maintain its defenses for more than the lifetime of the cells, and some of those are a matter of a few days. So when you would come out of this clean room, you probably wouldn't be able to handle even being near other people, because we shed 7 million skin scales per minute into the air. Another comment, and I've only got about 3 more, is the way we address risks. We address them one at a time. And I think Dr. Phalen has said that there's a magnifying glass effect, so that when you're looking at one risk and one potential cause, that's the whole world to you. And we don't consider offsetting risks. For example, if you drive up the cost of electricity or a diesel engine, 1.5 minutes, John, thank you for the reminder. People are going to die because they don't have air conditioning, they don't have adequate heat. If you drive up the cost of goods, they're going to die because they don't have adequate nutrition, etc. The National Academy of Sciences was asked by EPA in 2006 to evaluate risk assessment and how it's done today. And among the recommendations, they said, you have to look at all the alternatives of a decision, not just one decision and one endpoint, but you have to look at all of the alternatives and balance them, and most importantly, you have to let the public know what all the alternatives are. You can make a standard tighter, you can make a standard more lax, you can not change a standard. And what are the consequences of those three decisions in terms of also the indirect health effects, the effects caused by the cost of goods and services, and also joblessness. Lastly, I think we've let the public down in terms of public information, and I think us toxicologists have been guilty of that as well. It benefits us personally to have the public be afraid, even if these risks are trivial. If I wanted to see heart disease reduced, I'd ask everybody to lose 1 pound of weight rather than tighten a PM2.5 standard. I think it would do more good, and it would upset the economy less. You'd also get some benefits in terms of cancer risks. So we haven't really implemented the National Academy of Science philosophy yet, partially because it requires expertise that we don't really have incorporated into our agencies. So in sum, I believe that from the point of view of a toxicologist for 35 years who started trying to integrate things over the last 10 years, that the science isn't strong enough to do significant regulation of PM2.5. Thanks very much.